Hey guys, it's Dave the Red Pill Coach, and I am back to teach you guys how to make your life better. And this time, we'll talk a little bit about how to make your relationship work, but I want to finish off, for now at least, the coronavirus series. I do have the cognitive behavioral therapy stuff for use in your marriage ready to go, and you guys will be proud of me. I even have, get this, I have copyright permission, and from none other than Shadow the Rat. So we're going to see rat videos, rat training video, and we're going to learn next time what you can do with cognitive behavioral therapy in your marriage. For now, I need to get the coronavirus off the table right now. We're up to more than 71,000 cases worldwide. We have 440 plus people in the United States that are currently into quarantine, and 15 confirmed cases of the disease. Only one case, importantly I think, only one case is confirmed to have been human-to-human transmission. And this was, I read early on, and I have not been able to confirm this story later, but this guy did what guys do when he greets his wife after coming home from overseas. Who cares if she has a cold? He immediately bangs her anyway, and then he got infected. So, go figure. But importantly, no one else in the family got infected. Again, this virus is not as contagious as it could be. We're up to 1,175 dead. And if you run the numbers, you can just divide that number by 71,000, and you get 1.6%. 1.6%. We were told this virus has a 10% kill rate, and then we were told it has a 3% kill rate. Well, now it's down to 1.6%. So we're headed in the right direction, and that is all good. So I want to talk a little bit about whether, the question came up immediately, as it always does, to conspiracy theories. And I want to talk about whether or not this is a manufactured virus. Now, this emerged in Wuhan, China. Right up the street is a little place called the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I will repeat that. The Wuhan Institute of Virology is right next to where this virus emerged. So that seems a little suspicious. However, why wouldn't you put the Institute of Virology right next to where the viruses are emerging? As I've said, this is the third coronavirus, to emerge from this region in the last 20 years. We only had 4 prior to this. Now we have 7 to deal with. And these emerged naturally. There is no indication whatsoever that this virus is manufactured. In fact, if it were manufactured, I would want to get my money back from the manufacturer, because people don't realize how powerful DNA, or in this case, this is an RNA virus, so RNA technology has come. People have no idea. But you can splice in bits of genetic material anywhere you want. And we know what bits of genetic material are associated with things like latency period. Okay, latency period. I talked in the last video about the R0. That is the number of people who get infected by one infected person. Well, the R0 for a disease like smallpox is like 18 or 20. Each infected person will infect 20 people. Why? Because you walk around feeling fine for 3 weeks or more. And then you start getting itchy and the pox on you. In the meantime, you're infecting everybody you meet. So that's not the way the coronavirus works. You're not very infectious, apparently, at the time you are first infected. You are extremely infectious when you manifest symptoms, but you're not, apparently, based on the R0, which we think is about 2 point something, which is 2 point something is a lot better than 18. Okay, now why am I going into all this and explaining this? Because if you were going to design a virus, it would be extremely easy to manipulate the R naught. We know what increases the R naught, and you could just put the virus on a timer. You could say it infects everybody, and then it infects the whole human race. Why not? And then after 200 generations or 700 generations, or whatever you want to program into it, however many years, it suddenly becomes active and kills everybody. That would be an example of a manufactured virus. Another example of a manufactured virus, it would be somewhat easy to program a virus to attack only certain... This is freaking... Don't freak out, guys. You could program a virus to only attack certain ethnic groups. Oh, yeah. So if you're in China, most of the population are Han, H-A-N. It's an ethnic group. You could program a virus that doesn't infect Hans. And then you could program in a delay switch or a kill switch. 2 years later, after it infects the whole human race, it activates, everybody dies. That would be a manufactured virus. There's 1,001 things you could do to manufacture a virus. And this doesn't have any of that. The latency period is not very long for a coronavirus. I've heard, that the latency period indicates that it was manufactured. No, it doesn't. Absolutely not. There are many viruses with much, much longer latency periods, which would be simple to splice in for this virus. There's probably, a couple 100,000 people around the world who could do this. You just splice in those genes into the coronavirus that we have now, and boom, you have a worldwide pandemic that you can't stop. So, is this thing manufactured? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. If it were, we would know. It would be really obvious. I initially suspected this might be manufactured because the Wuhan Institute of Virology came up with a genetic code for this virus ridiculously quick, within about 3 weeks. And, when I was in medical school in 2010, I learned how to sequence, not DNA, RNA in this case. And you got to cultivate it inside a living organism and transport it. There's a whole bunch of steps involved. And they take weeks and months to do. You can't speed it along. You've got to wait for the virus to take hold in the animal that you infect, and then et cetera, et cetera. So there's no way to speed that up. At least that's what I was taught. Well, in the last 10 years, they have figured out ways to speed that up. The number one way is we already have these viruses sequenced. And in fact, if you run this DNA sequence on something called CRISPR, which is, never mind, it's a database of genetic material. You can put in the DNA of this coronavirus in CRISPR, and the first hit you get is the Wuhan live animal market. Oh yeah, true story. Why do you get that? Because the Wuhan Institute of Viral Technology sequenced bat DNA, or specifically bat coronavirus DNA, RNA. Yeah, let's get it right, RNA. So they sequenced the bat, all the, maybe not all, but all that we could find. And this virus, this Clovid-19, they're calling it now, I call it the Wuhan flu, the novel coronavirus. This virus was almost exactly like a virus found in bats in 2017. Okay, so we knew this was coming. We didn't have to splice in any exotic DNA or weaponize it in any way, because this virus is giving all indications it is not weaponized. It's not weaponized. It's not highly infectious. It's not particularly deadly for a model, an emergent zoonotic animal-produced coronavirus. In fact, it's almost precisely in the sweet spot. That is to say, it's not too lethal, 1.5%, 2%. It's not too infectious. It doesn't have a particularly long latency period. all indications, if you look at that, all indications are that this is a naturally occurring virus. It occurs because we live with our animals. So don't live with our animals and really knock off with the conspiracy theories that somehow the Chi-Coms manufactured this and released it on their own population. I'll let you know if there's indications of that happening. So the next question is the Clovid-19, the novel coronavirus, is it the zombie apocalypse virus? And the answer is no, it is not. For the same reasons, we can tell it's very likely not manufactured in any way. This is an emergent virus. Emergent viruses happen all the time. All the time. And they get weaker over time. As we saw, it's not 10%, it's not even 2%. The kill rate is now down to 1.5%. And I guarantee you that will get down to under 1%. Probably well under 1% in the next few years. It'll not be not much more lethal than the seasonal influenza. Okay, so I want to educate you a little bit on the course of illness that we see with this novel coronavirus, because it is somewhat interesting. These corona that allow the virus to attach to human cells and to animal cells are variable. They have different kinds of RNA in them and different kinds of genetic material. So the presentation varies over time. And in fact, that's a good story to tell. The reason this virus spread in China and the reason the epidemic took hold, the reason they weren't able to contain it, was because a patient was misdiagnosed. There was about 40 patients brought in, okay? And they all had respiratory condition, and they knew it was a new virus, and they isolated these patients. Well, one of the patients out of the 40 they misdiagnosed because he was also having diarrhea and gastrointestinal problems and did not have a particularly high fever. So they put him in a room with several hundred other patients, and that is the source of the outbreak. This one patient who was highly infectious, he was sick, was put in a room with a bunch of other patients, and they all got sick. Not all of them, but over 400. Let me repeat that. 40 people came in, people went to the hospital, guy was misdiagnosed, he was put in another room with a bunch of patients, he infected 400. Those 400 went on to infect 71,000. So that's where it stands today. But, and it's a cautionary lesson to understand that this coronavirus is variable, but it's also useful to know the general course of the disease, which occurs well over 90% of the time. It pursues this course. So first of all, after exposure, within 14 days, so far every time within 14 days, and it's probably shorter than that, it's probably 10 days or so, the patient will experience a sudden fever. Now, why do we get colds and flus in the winter but not in the summer? Does anyone know? Anyone? Bueller? Well, lucky you got me here to explain. We get colds in the winter because in the summer it's hot. Coronaviruses don't like the heat. Therefore, as soon as you get a coronavirus, you will get a fever. And particularly with this virus, your body, most people react immediately by a high fever. And that's a signature thing with this virus, apparently. But often there's minimal symptoms. It's like hot flashes and maybe a feeling of worn down, but you're not really all that sick. Although people report headache, fatigue, night sweats, feeling run down, and later on, a few days later, they experience a dry, hacking cough. Hopefully that was a good imitation. And it's unproductive. They're not coughing up any sputum, and they are beginning to experience what's called dyspnea, D-Y-S-P-N-E-A. IA, I think, EA. Dyspnea. It is shortness of breath. You can't, what's going on? I can't breathe. Well, what's happened is this virus that infected the body has now settled in the lungs. You now have not just a coronavirus cold, you have viral pneumonia. And the virus is replicating rapidly in the lungs, and at this point, the patient is ridiculously contagious. If you are around a person who is experiencing symptoms like this, you are very likely to get the disease, so don't be around. Okay, guys, we're at 15 minutes, and they tell me these videos turn into pumpkins if I make them longer than 15 minutes, so we're going to have to split this up. I'll finish this video on the other side. Thank you very much.